Hello, this is Andrew Cardno. I'm here with QCI pod number 3, and I'm going to discuss with you today tribal data sovereignty, what it means, why it's important, and how it's even relevant to non-tribal properties. The same concept really applies. I've published quite a lot on this topic, and I think it's something that really needs to stay front of mind in this incredibly rapidly changing world that we move in. We have here an article from TG&H, or in TG&H, that I wrote some time ago, and I'm going to take you through that today. I have a second article in Indian Gaming around the sovereign data vault. Before I jump into that, here's a shameless plug for the Math That Gaming Made Color Edition. This is up on Amazon.com right now. 18 years of writing, 750 pages, edited by Buddy Frank. Dr. Thomas, myself, and Professor Singh have put a tremendous amount of work into this. I really encourage you to take a look at it. It's a worthwhile book for almost everyone in the industry. It's so broad in its nature and all the topics that it covers. So let's just do a quick Microsoft Bing search on tribal data sovereignty, and you can see there's quite a lot that's been discussed around this topic. We're seeing the Native Nations Institute, we're seeing the Bureau of Justice Assistance, we're seeing a presentation here on Indigenous data sovereignty. There is quite a lot of discussion going on around this. What I'm going to bring us back to today is something around the importance of geography and what it really means, and how where things happen makes a difference. Now, there's a very, very relevant recent Supreme Court decision not to take it further, and it's in Florida. And the Supreme Court, in turning down the sports betting challenge, the Seminole tribe has the right to continue to offer iGaming across all of Florida. But there's a very, very important component of this ruling, and I'm just going to scroll down to it. This is in the Jacks today, and the case was focused on a hub and spoke system in the deal, allowing the Seminoles to accept bets anywhere in the state with wagers run through servers on tribal land. That's really, really important. This case shows that where computer systems are located has a direct impact on the law. So now I'm going to go through the TG&H article with you. A modern gaming operation is basically this beautiful facility and all of its associated data. And as we think about the world today of a casino resort and what it's like, there are dozens of systems. Each new piece of the business, like the hotel now requires a system to run. The table games have their own systems. The gaming machines have their own system. All the food and beverage have systems that they use. The valet has systems. The parking has systems. If you have a golf course, it will have systems. All of these systems operate and collect data continuously. And the critical question, where is that data housed? Who has jurisdiction over it? And the critical understanding here is that it is not reasonable to expect a modern operation to run without all of these systems. The elephant in the room is cloud computing. So let's talk about it. So we take one of these systems. Could be your hotel system, it could be your valet system, it could be your gaming system. Any one of these systems now, you could take that system and move it to a cloud-based provider. So what happens? That means that the jurisdiction is no longer on tribal land. It's no longer governed by tribal sovereignty in the same way. You've moved the operations to the cloud. And people will say to me, oh, what, it's encrypted, or it's protected. And the answer to that is, well, not really relevant for this discussion. Let's just use an example. If I offered a cloud service and took all of a tribal nation's data and put it into my cloud service, which with my company we could technically do that, then if I was issued a subpoena, if I was issued a search warrant from some government agency, and maybe a gag order from that government agency, I would comply with the law. I would have to, if required, turn over the data that I could see. I would have to continue to offer the services whilst that data was being inspected by these third-party agencies. And the gag order, and these have been issued to cloud providers, would stop me from talking to the tribal nation about this. And I would be subject to all the laws of the state. There have been some really big changes in online providers recently. In the last year, there have been some areas of technology where the casino industry has been specifically banned from online service providers. My personal experience with this has been quite remarkable. My bank, and I won't name the bank, my bank came to me and said, I should say one of my banks came to me and said, hey, we would like to extend our relationship with you. And I thought, great. That's a great offer. Yes, we've been banking with them for many years, I think a decade or more, and we thought extending the relationship made a lot of sense. We went through a whole evaluation process. They were very enthusiastic, and then they discovered that we at Quick Custom Intelligence spend a lot of time doing business with casino operators, including tribal nations. And they said, actually, I'm sorry, we're not going to do business with you. I've had experience with a similar kind of behavior from technology providers offering texting services. As recently as last month, a texting operator came to me and said, I know we're deep into the relationship, we've evaluated it, and we're not going to allow you to offer our services to your customers. So not only is there an operational component to this, there's a sovereignty component to it, and there's a cyber security component to it. There are 550 government agencies that have the power to access data held in third parties. So if I was holding a tribal nation's data, there's 550 government agencies that have the right to come to me and ask for that data. That's a staggering amount of outside influence. Put that same database inside the sovereign nation, and none of them can come to me. Because I don't have the data. I don't have any control. It's sitting inside sovereign land. Now, that agency could go to the sovereign nation and ask for the data. They could say, I would like access to this information. It's a very interesting legal question as to what jurisdictional control those government agencies have over a tribal nation, over a sovereign nation. And it's certainly a matter of law. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get too deep into this, but there is a real level of protection, I think, that comes with that. So let's consider the data moving off sovereign land. It's become subject to litigation, like, for example, responsible gaming litigation, because it could be said, even though the gambling event took place on tribal land, the digital event associated with it took place in the cloud, which could be in the state of California or the state of Arizona. So a third party who decide to sue on the behalf of a customer or something, they could sue and say, oh gosh, no, that transaction did not take place inside the property. It took place outside sovereign land. It took place in the state of California. Therefore, the state of California laws apply, or whatever state it was operating in. So there's a potential for third-party litigation to take action and have jurisdictional control over events that took place physically inside whilst they're outside. Now, the Florida case is super interesting as well, because the jurisdictional events take place in a hub and spoke model inside sovereign land that brings about a level of protection that is very, very interesting. Then we get to another real question around taxation. Who and what activities can a state tax? The answer to that question is that they have tremendous power of taxation. They can make up new tax laws, it seems, at whim on almost any kind of transaction or event. So if the data is held inside a server that I control, could California, could Arizona, could Nevada, maybe, another outside tax entity say, no, we're going to tax that transaction? Could they tax the communication? Could they tax the use of data? Could they tax the use of artificial intelligence on that data? If that same activity takes place inside sovereign land, completely different discussion. And I've been reading some of the recent writings by Chairman Stevens. He's talking about the independence of sovereign nations and rights around taxation. This is not my area of expertise, but there is certainly a level of protection, and there is definitely tribal sovereignty involved if the transactions take place on sovereign land and the systems are in sovereign land. For me, the most important component of this to understand that tribal data sovereignty is core to the ownership of tribal gaming. In order to own your tribal gaming operations fully, with full sovereign ownership, your data, your operations needs to be on sovereign land. Now, there is a real challenge here because there is a lot of software vendors who want to take that and put it into the cloud and move it off sovereign land. This is a very, very serious discussion that needs to be had about, should you do that? What are the sovereignty implications? And if there's a decision that is made to do that, it should be made with eyes wide open around the importance of tribal data sovereignty and what it means and how you can protect the long-term tribal data sovereignty over your core assets, which I think are the data components of your gaming business. Well, thank you very much. That was QCI Pod 003. I hope you got something out of that. Post something below. I'll put the links to these articles below this posting.